Hello, everyone who is coming in to this month's virtual tour of intentional communities. So glad that you can be here with us. I see we have folks coming in, getting their audio connected. Wonderful. All right, folks, so we are back for another month of virtually visiting a variety of different intentional communities throughout the US and also today in Central America in Costa Rica. So I'm very excited for this session. We have a nice diversity of communities here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to diving in with all of you. My name is Cynthia, and I am one of the co-directors here at the Foundation for Intentional Community, FIC. And I'm calling in from a nice sunny fall day here in Vermont. So we're gonna get started with Laisha of Our Home Cathedral Park. She's coming in from Portland, Oregon, to talk about a community that is doing some really interesting things around diversity and inclusivity as a co-housing community, which I know has been top of mind for a lot of folks. So really glad you are here, and take it away, Our Home Cathedral Park.
Great, thank you very much. Can you see my PowerPoint? Is it up? Okay, fantastic, good deal. Thanks very much for inviting us to be here. This is a really nice opportunity and we appreciate that. I started working with the idea of an inclusive and diverse community about 8 years ago. So we're really excited that we're gathering our community together now, and we're about a year from construction. So that's, that's the exciting part of we're about ready to break ground, and we've got about a third of our folks together. So happy to share with you about what we're up to in Portland, Oregon. So I'm going to start out just for a second to tell you a little bit of background of why are we doing this? Why are inclusion and diversity at the forefront of what we mention when we talk about the values of Our Home Cathedral Park? And this is a picture of my daughter, Neva, and my mom. I am kind of the meat in the sandwich generation. I have a mom who's in her late 70s, about to turn 80, and my daughter, Neva, is almost 20, and she experiences disabilities. So I am a care provider, both on the side for my mom and for my daughter and for myself. And thinking about folks that experience disability, people that want to age in a home of their choice and not necessarily go to a facility. So that when I think of facility and I think of housing and the people that get grouped based on their deficits and their needs versus bringing people together based on their gifts and their strengths. Disability and aging is two areas that we often do assisted care facilities and group homes or institutions or foster care situations. We also thought about folks that are below median income. We do low income housing, and you're putting people together that are experiencing some of the same struggles or challenges in life without that diversity of other folks that can help you, with the reciprocity of give and take, those connections of that diversity that's so important. So those are, sort of the three legs of our original stool were age, ability, income. And all of that is affected through, BIPOC communities, LGBTQAI plus communities. These are issues and challenges that face all of us as humanity. And we wanted to make sure that we were calling them out and being thoughtful about how we start our community from their values. And what was important to us is we wanted people to feel that they were welcome, that they were safe, that they were appreciated and seen. And that to us was what the definition of home was. And that's where all of these things come together, a place where we can be who we are, bring what we have to the table, and be a part of something larger than just us. And also not then dependent on systems or supports that come from the outside, but the systems of friendships and family and caring that come from the inside. So we are, and this is a new picture that I've just put in here today. We just raised our sign on our building site. So that was a super exciting, we were all together in 3 dimensions, which is the first time that we've been able to get together for reals since we started working in earnest on this particular phase of our project. So we are artists and writers and accountants and mortgage brokers and IT people and dancers and singers and you know, wine drinkers and disco pizza party throwers. So we're just this wild, wonderful group of folks that has started to come together around these values that we hold front and foremost of inclusion and diversity. We come together with who we are. Yeah, okay, so there are some things that are the same about co-housing, a typical co-housing configuration. That is that we are people-based, you know, it's about who we are, it's about our community coming together, but our community coming together to help lift in this web of support for each other. So we are all stronger together than we are individually. We have a very similar build where we have a common house, we have our own spaces that we live in. A lot of the structure is the same, where members come together and put in some of their funds, as well as their heart and their effort and their values and their intention to move the project forward. One thing that's a little different about us is that along this 8-year process that we've been in about year 3 or 4, we formed a nonprofit. We knew that co-housing often is out of reach of a lot of our community members because of the big commitment on the front end. Most co-housing groups, you're expected to put in 20% of the cost of your unit in that front phase, in the pre-development phase. Not all of our families have that kind of liquidity. So, you know, 100 grand for a $500,000 house is a lot of money to put at risk in a co-housing development. So, especially in the very early days. So we formed a nonprofit, raised funds through foundations, grants, donations to help out with that front end money so that our families that don't have generational wealth or haven't built equity in their homes because they haven't had an opportunity to own a home, they can come in with less than that 20%. We help sort of shore that up a bit. That nonprofit also, and the nonprofit's mission is to support, promote, and develop inclusive and diverse communities. And I'm the president of the nonprofit, as well as going to be a member living at the community. So I kind of pop back and forth with all these different hats. But with these funds that we raised on the front end, we were able to reach out to a development company that does co-housing. So we hired in capacity. So we have strong developers that work with us that understand how to work with groups that are co-housing people. We also hired an architecture firm that has done co-housing in the past. So they've got the knowledge of what it takes to build community just by the bricks and mortar of your space. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And we have all of these community partners that have come around us because of this nonprofit. And that lowers the risk, that lowers the risk for the folks that are coming in as community members later. So of the mission of the nonprofit, we want to have 20 to 25% of our homes owned by somebody with intellectual or developmental disability in their family. Either the owner experiences IDD or the family member that will own the unit has a person in their family that experiences IDD. And we also want to have 6 affordable units ranging from very low, almost like Social Security level of income, up to about 100% of median family income. And we live in a city that median family income doesn't buy you a market rate house. So that's part of the reason why we wanted to have that stretch of income available or opportunity for folks. And we feel that, you know, all people coming together as a community build a stronger community. A monoculture of folks, you know, wealthy white people is not a strong community. We want to have, you know, diversity coming all together in our community. And we're looking at the homes, not housing model. I've got a sticky mouse, so forgive me. It makes for a little bit of a complex project. So this is the development structure, and you've got the team on one side that is our nonprofit, the landowner, which we own our land, we have purchased land, but it's set aside in a different limited liability corporation. We've got our developer, our architect, our contractor, and our community members. And then we've got from the nonprofit, it feeds into the development entity, which we named Platypus because we are a strange and unique creature. if you start an LLC, you get to name the LLC, which is really fun. So you get to be creative and playful with it. So we have 24 market rate units, we have 6 subsidized units, and eventually that will flow into our homeowners association. Our funding stream is very similar to other projects. With addition, we've got the grants and donations piece of it, which really helps build that foundation so that when the community members come in, there's less risk. And then we work with a land trust and our nonprofit that helps with the subsidies for the affordable units. So one of the things that does, is it going to fill it up? There we go, is bringing all of these people together. We've got experience and knowledge. It builds in less financial risk. It sets us up for success. And there's more people that are committed to helping us out. And it makes the timeline a little faster. Now that the nonprofit has done all of this work, our timeline is moving faster as we're bringing our community members together. We're going to be built in 2 years and in. So that's a nice time to be able to gather community before or after all of that risk has been taken. Mouse is not working. There we go. So in a nutshell, like I mentioned, you've got the big construction loan, you've got the community members that are coming in, you've got participating investors that come in, and then you have that nonprofit support that's in as well. And our goal with this, to be part of the nonprofit side, is we're not just a one and done kind of situation. Our home Cathedral Park is a community that will be built and formed and self-sustaining. And then the nonprofit takes some of the funds that they have raised and they go help other communities do the same thing. You know, helping to break down those barriers of affordability and diversity, and including people with disabilities. So we are making sure that some of the money that we lend to this project is then paid back through mortgages, and the revenue of the project comes back to the nonprofit. And we, as they say, we wash, rinse, and repeat, and do it again. And we're also helping other communities around the country that are wanting to do this type of work. There are 1 million families in the United States right now that have people that experience disability that are living in their family home. And those care providers of those, the parents usually, are 60 years old or older. So at some point, these families won't be able to provide the assistance that their individual needs. And it's an unseen, it's about to be an unhoused group of people, or a housing crisis coming into the world that isn't really thought of yet, because everybody's housed now, but people are coming into because their care providers are passing away. So we're wanting to provide, options and choices for individuals and families as well. So our home Cathedral Park, we are a urban build, highly dense. We're at the edge of Portland, Oregon. We have access to amazing green spaces. We built the corner node here to face the broader community so that we are very connected to the broader community, and they see us up on our deck having community events. It's sort of sneaky advocacy of what is it like to have an inclusive and diverse community. It's like, oh, they're having fun. They're having another barbecue, and they've invited us into the common house to have one of our neighborhood association meetings, or to come to their Friday evening disco pizza parties, that one of their folks that throws. So it's a way of building, broader connection to the community, as well as our own neighbors and our own community. The build is very much centered around our shared courtyard, our community space. Our units look out onto it so that we've got those connections all the time with our community. And then as we wanted to be more private, we move back into our units, which are the living spaces and the bedroom spaces. But it builds community just by the way that the circulation and the viewpoints are. We also have a beautiful view across the river to the one of the nation's largest urban forests. It's called Forest Park. So we have a combination between urban services and transportation, fun pubs and movie theaters and grocery stores, and that social fabric, as well as connection to nature. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. And we're right next door to an amazing community garden, so that those that want to grow food and flowers and dig in the dirt, right next door is a community pea patch that we have access to, but we're not responsible for taking care of. We did in the design make sure that we did lots of, there it is, different lenses of design approach. So universal design, which means access for all, and that helps with people with mobility issues and people that want to age in place. We did trauma-informed design, blind and visually impaired design, deaf space guidelines, neurodiverse design guidelines. And we did our community building with the intention of our circulation and our sight lines being such that we connect as a community. Lots of gathering spaces that are both small and large, and private and public spaces. And like I mentioned, all of beautiful views. And of course, there's lots of bike storage. It's Portland, Oregon. We also have a dog washing station because it's Portland, Oregon. But we're being really thoughtful with the build, as well as, you know, there's both the bricks and mortar piece of it and then the community values piece of it that are both being thoughtfully kind of nurtured as we grow. Next slide, does it go? There we go. So in our community, the best way to learn more about us is to go through the website, which is www.ourhomecathedralpark.com. There's a place that you can sign up for learnabouts there, and you become an explorer. And it's a 30 to 60 day period of time that you get to know us, we get to know you, and we get to explore whether or not our home feels like, oh, that's cheesy, our home feels like your home. So please feel free to reach out. There we go. Oop. Is there a website on there? There it is. Yay. So thank you again for this opportunity to share, and would love to answer any questions or email me. You can get to me through that website, and happy to connect. Thank you very much.
Alicia, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's incredible. I'm thinking, is there anything you haven't thought of? It just seems like such a thoughtful design of the community and really addressing those barriers of affordability and diversity that we hear over and over again, especially in the co-housing type of community. So yeah, thank you for not only creating this model, but also building into it the model of then paying it forward and helping other communities. Just like,
right.
Wow. Kudos.
Yeah, no, we want to be able to have, you know, that front end money that's so hard to come up with available for other communities, and also down payment assistance, you know, that can come in and back out, you know, working with the land trusts and such. So yeah, how do we bring this amazing opportunity of co-housing to everyone that needs it and would benefit from it and chooses to live in it? So we're trying. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, I'm seeing we do have some questions for you in the Q&A box. Also, folks, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to ask your question verbally out loud. Let's see. One question I'm curious about too. Do you know, are there other communities like our home, Cathedral Park, and other parts of the country? Do you know if you're the only one who are doing this model?
As far as we know, we are the only one that's doing it like this, with the nonprofit, for-profit, and the really clearly stated values up front and center. And as I think we're pretty unique right now. Part of what's so important about having this community be a success and get built is that we've got a lot of people that are wanting to do this kind of community. But it's, I mean, you saw the development sketch, right? It's complicated. So funders and developers are like, why are we doing something so hard? You know, let's do something normal, and normal isn't what we need. You know, normal is what we've had, it isn't what we need. So getting this one built, it's an example, and the nonprofit is very interested in putting out a how-to manual of, you know, tips of what worked, what didn't work, you know, what our process was. And helping other communities come together. But as far as I know, we're it right now that's quite like this. We're going to be presenting at there's a group meeting in Maryland next week on building inclusivity into community, and we've been asked to present there. So evident. I mean, there's desire for it. I just don't think there's a lot of examples yet. So 10 years, they'll be everywhere. Right now, our home Cathedral Park needs to just get built and up and going.
Great. Yeah, and I'm curious about that nonprofit fundraising, because for many communities, getting off the ground, if they don't have the capital themselves, finding investors, finding donors can be such a hurdle. So it sounds like you were successful in that, and you're creating a guidebook with all the tips and tricks. So yes, looking forward to checking that out. Alrighty, let's see. There's lots of questions. Since the community is not built yet, a visitor would just go to your website. Like, there's nothing to see if someone was in Portland.
Right. If you are in Portland, yeah, come to our website, because we're dirt. We're beautiful dirt. Go out and see the site and get to know Cathedral Park neighborhood. So there's a beautiful view, and you get to know kind of the tenor of the neighborhood. But being a part of our learnabouts is probably the best way to get to know more, and that's accessible through the website, through the Our Home Cathedral Park website.
Okay, great. Okay, one last question for you. How did you find the families, the specific families that have the diversity that you're looking for? How did you locate them and bring them into the project?
So disability is incredibly, I mean, there's so many people that are looking for inclusive communities for people with disabilities, autism or cerebral palsy, or all of our families are like, where are our people? Where are people that get our people? And we feel safe and welcome. So that was pretty much just like putting up the light bulb of thought, and suddenly I had, I mean, we could build 1 million of these and have them filled. But we also want to make sure that we're not doing disability housing. We don't want it to be all people with disabilities. That's not a real community or a full community. It's not a real community. It's not that it's a community writ large. So that's part of the reason why we want to do multiples, is to bring up numbers of people served, as well as not, building true community. So we just partnered with other agencies and other support groups, and put the word out on the web just by building a website, and you start to get all those little Google search words. Affordability, of course, is something that everybody's looking for, so that was easy too. What is also really wonderful is that folks that are going for our market rate units that don't experience disability are wanting to live in a community that doesn't look just like them, and that feels like it's more than just your own life, and it has purpose. There's a social purpose there, as well as walking your words, walking the talk. So it's we're finding that people are there are people that it's not for, and that's fine, and the people that it is for are definitely coming forward towards us. A lot of families have somebody with a disability in their family, or somebody that is LGBTQAI, and it's like, okay, I'm an ally, and I'm an ally of a person that I love. Why wouldn't I live my values? So that's how we're finding our people, is just by being present. And I'm like the most boring person in the room, because I don't stop talking about this stuff. So, and neither do the folks that are interested in it. So we just talk to our friends, and they talk to their friends, and we find our people that way.
Amazing. Yeah, sounds like you're having no trouble finding people to fill the community and fill, like you said, 1 million of such communities. I hope. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, we still need 2/3 of our members. So if anybody on this is interested in coming and being our neighbor, come join us, please, because it is important, and tell everybody about it. We do still have 20 units to fill, so bring me people.
Good to know. We will now go from urban Portland, Oregon, down to Costa Rica with La Ecovilla. We have Marcelo here to tell us about this just stunningly gorgeous community from the photos. I'm so curious to hear more from you, and yeah, big welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. So welcome to Ecovilla, Costa Rica. We are located in a town called San Mateo. It's between San Jose and San Jose is the capital of Costa Rica and the Pacific Ocean. We are halfway up in the mountains in a rural area. Before we started Ecovilla, this used to be a cow farm. There were no trees, and we started planting many fruit trees and many native species and started a reforestation project. If you look here in the back, that's how the property used to look, only like cow farms and nothing on it. Right now, if you look at from Google Earth, Google Maps or anything, you will see that it's a food forest and a forest with hundreds and hundreds of fruit trees. We produce lots of food every week. We get a basket with all the fruits, vegetables, all the things that we produce organically. All year long, we have like 70, 80 varieties of fruits that we get producing here. We have veggies, we have medicinal plants. That's a fruit called jackfruit. It tastes a little bit like gummy bears. It's delicious. Many times they eat it raw, like substitute of meat. Like that's a star fruit. And we also have recycling stations. We try to reuse, reduce, and recycle whatever we don't use. Like most of our consumption, it's fruits, vegetables, and things that we produce. So we have compost, communal compost piles that then they go back to the gardens, and we reuse that fertile soil. And it's a circle loop that we use again and again. Part of part of the creation of this community was, how can we create a place where people can feel comfortable and in a structure that they are familiar with? And I traveled around the world for a year and a half, visiting many communities and seeing what works, what didn't work, and why. And many times we try to reinvent the wheel in a way that is so sophisticated that it doesn't work for the majority. So how can we create places where people from all ages, from all countries, they can feel included, that they can participate, and that they feel safe as far as their investment? And pretty much what we did over here, we created a condominium. The condominium structure here in Costa Rica is like a subdivision where everyone owns their own individual lots, and they are part owner of the common areas. In the case of Ecovilla, 70% of the land, it's common areas, reserves, food production. We have an amazing river that runs through the property, yoga platforms, and there are many, everyone build their own house. And we have houses built out of bamboo, out of wood from fallen trees, out of steel, cement. My house, for example, is made out of recycled cars. So there are all kinds of things. What we try to do is like really make it that the houses are efficient energetically, as far as not having to use too much light or air conditioning. Here we don't have to use heater because it's warm all year long, but it's how you cool it down, and using like solar panels, solar water heaters, and reduce our consumption as much as possible. So there are all kinds of houses for all tastes and where everybody can feel welcome. And then we have to pay a monthly fee, and that monthly fee goes to maintain. We have local workers that produce the food, that maintains the common areas, the pool, the ranchos, the the yoga platform, and that is part of like all the community events that we have that are constantly, like they happen from offerings from neighbors. So we have all kinds of things going on. Part of this is this thing that you see over here. It's all the toilets, all the showers from every single house are connected to this massive biodigester. So pretty much it's like a big bag where all the waste goes there from every toilet. It gets decomposed naturally and it produces methane gas, and we storage that gas, and the gas you could use it to produce electricity. You could use it for cooking, to power cars, many use that you can give. These are part of the common areas that we all share, and where we have birthday parties. This Saturday we have Halloween party where all the neighbors, they gather and then they go around, and all the houses, they cook healthy treats for everyone, and they go with their container. So we don't produce any garbage, plastic or anything, and we reuse the same customs over and over again. We just shuffle them around, and it's part of having fun together, dancing and enjoying life. And you know, like the power of community is not like, of course, having fun and everything, it's amazing, but you know, the power that it has when tough time comes, through the pandemic or something, having community around, it was such a blessing. And personally for me, when I finished developing La Ecovilla, my wife got diagnosed with breast cancer. And throughout the whole process, like she died a year and a half ago, 2 years, as soon as the pandemic started. But I had such a strong support from men's groups that we gather around the fire. We talk about things, we share moments. And in the moment that someone died, like when she died, we had such an enormous amount of support with my kids, with myself, like they were bringing food every day, and we had such a like strong support that makes life much easier. So it's such an important thing, like to have a like really supportive community that you can enjoy moments, but as well knowing that they are there for you, and the same way you are there for them whenever it's needed. So it's, you know, having that's the Air Force that we have in Ecovilla. In the picture, we have 14 ponds. Inside these ponds, we grow fish, shrimps, and as well like water plants. And we manage the rainwater through these ponds. We attracted, like the invitation from Ecovilla at the beginning was to create a place where we can live in balance, in harmony with nature, with ourselves and our neighbors. So that was a very broad statement, and it attracted 45 families from 29 different countries with many kids. So we had to start thinking a way of how to educate our kids. And we begin with a very small school inside of Ecovilla. And then the community started growing, and we had to think about how we want to educate our kids. And one of the neighbors, he's from Switzerland and his wife is from Guatemala. Before they had kids, they were backpacking in Ecuador, and they visited a school that a Swiss-German couple, they started, that was called Pestalozzi. And it's a place where kids learn by doing, by experience, by experimenting. They don't have teachers, they don't have classrooms, they don't have tests, they don't have homework. So it was my dream school. When they said all that, so I said, I want that for my kids. I don't know it will be, but these people have 40 something years of experience in this kind of education, and it's amazing the results on how many important skills the kids learn and developed when they have such a freedom. So we started the school in a property, like Ecovilla is 50 acres. And this property that where we started the school used to be a petting zoo that went bankrupt. And after it went bankrupt, the owner said, why don't do another eco-village here? And I said, look, your property is 650 acres. To come up with something for that size of a property, it takes a long time, and the market is not ready to do such a thing. So we started, he gave us the place to start the school, and after a few, we were I couldn't really focus on developing something else at the moment because of my wife's health condition. It was my priority, and I was very supporting the school. So pretty much now with the pandemic, things started shifting. And as well, in the middle of the pandemic, when everybody was in lockdown, there was a release of a Netflix special from Sam Efron called Down to Earth, where he visits Ecovilla and Casasula on part of that, and that got an exposure of the community and the Casasula of thousands and thousands and thousands of people that were writing from all over the world, and that they wanted to be part of this community. So it was pretty much started looking at how we can, there is such a strong need for community, there is such a strong need for the basics, for food security, and having the basics covered. What I mean by the basics is like water, food, shelter, community, and how can we have more and more of these communities around? So that I felt that was the mission that I wanted to do, and that's when Ecovilla San Mateo was born. And in this property that is 650 acres, here is where Ecovilla is located. We are about 30 minutes away from the beach, 40 minutes from San Jose International Airport, up in the mountains next to this beautiful magical river that it has big boulders and waterfalls and pools that you can swim. And this is the area where there is a small town called San Mateo. It's very rural, and it's like going back to Costa Rica 30, 40 years ago. Like, people are super friendly. And then we had Orotina, that is a bigger city, and there are access to clinics, hospital, doctors, banks, things like that. And that is about 10 minutes away. And here is a property that is pretty much the same size or bigger than Orotina. And, you know, part of this is all this used to be the petting zoo, and they had cows and they cut most of the trees. So the idea is how to leave the forest, you know, like doing like really restore, like doing a restoration of the soil and be able to preserve, regenerate the soil, regenerate the ecosystems and the wildlife coming back. And how can you have people with a level of consciousness that it multiplies, and all the ideas and ventures that happens when you put this kind of people together is amazing. Like the municipality of San Mateo, they make a study that from Ecovilla and Casasula, only 45 families, we are giving employment directly and indirectly to 380 to 400 families. And that's you know, in a rural area that there are no much jobs and no much thing. And so like all of us, we work. This was the first residential project in Costa Rica to have fiber optic to the house. So we have really good internet and we can work from home remotely, like before the pandemic. Right now with the pandemic, so many people can work from anywhere and they have the opportunity to do what we are doing right now and visit places and connect and give classes or workshops or whatever from this beautiful paradise. So it's we are launching in November this new project that we've done it. It took us long time because it's not like we do what we want to do. It's what the land tells us that it can do, wants, and can support. So we really work with the land, with the elevations, with looking at the slopes, how the water runs, and what are the areas that shouldn't be touched and why they shouldn't be touched, and the zones, like in permaculture, how we work around. And these are different projects, the similar size around the world. And the design guidelines that we use for the project, the circulation inside the property, where we have a lot of trails for hiking and bike, and a lot of green network and community areas. And the invitation is for families that want to be, pretty much it will be a copy paste of La Ecovilla, where you can come and see it, and thousands of people came throughout the years. We started in 2010, and 2012 it was finished. And since then, we received so many guests that came and shared their gifts with the community, and we have people from all over the world that have amazing contacts and guest houses, and people that come and look, wow, this is really incredible how families gather around the fire, how we celebrate life, how we celebrate birthdays, the birth, the death, every stage of life, and how we have people from newborns to very elders that are an integral part of our community. So this will be the new Ecovilla San Mateo, where we have Casa Azula, that is the name of the school. And I will share the links of La Ecovilla and Casa Azula so you can check out more and have more information. This is a little bit of the look and feel of, we will have co-working areas, Casa Azula, that is the school, community, organic farms, iconic, and gathering and events and workshops, and like really like how we can grow as individuals, as a collective, and how we can nurture each other and support each other in that growth. So these are different neighborhoods. The idea here, why I wanted to keep it, instead of making one big project, is keeping them in small villages from 19 to 50 homes, where you can really have intimacy and connection and have those common areas where you gather around, and you have that possibility that whenever you are lots of people, it's not possible. So I feel that, you know, more than 60 families is too much people. In Ecovilla, we are 45 families. We are around 180 to 200 people. I feel it's the right number where you can create that intimacy, connection, and get to know each other in a much deeper level than big subdivisions where everybody don't even know your name or who you are. So part of this development, it will have how it's set up, and all the villages with their common area amenities where people gather around and they have this connection. But there are a lot of areas that are designated to hold a container, and this container is to include new ideas of people, like the presentation we had before, how we can create a co-living quarter there. So it's like the land is there for magic to happen. We have land set aside for elders village, how we can do, especially for them, to have pairs and having people and more peace and more quiet areas, and having a retreat and wellness and holistic center in some other areas of the land. So all these areas are designated for people to come, integrate, and give their ideas and their dreams with a supportive community around. So that's the invitation that we have in Ecovilla. We have so much interest. We've done like a small invitation for family, friends, people we know already, and I think they already reserved more than half of the lots. So it's, we know like in a few days when we launch it, it will sell out pretty fast, and it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your kids, to have families, to grow old, and have an amazing community around and great weather. So thank you so much for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. What an incredible community you have created and are continuing to build. I'm so impressed by all of the ecological aspects, the community support, the thoughtful design, the nature. It just seems so incredible, and it's no wonder that you're getting the interest that you are. Yeah, and thank you also for sharing a little bit about your story of traveling and visiting communities and your wife and having that support of the community. So just, yeah, thank you so much for being here and the work you're doing.
Pleasure. Here I see, when did the Ecovilla begin? I answered that. How are the builders selected for building of the houses? So pretty much we create the container with all the infrastructure and all the permits and everything ready for you to come and build your house. So you submit your design, and there is an architecture committee, and they will have pretty much we give a recommendation of architects and builders that we know, but you can use whoever you want as far as you follow the guidelines. That is pretty much you could use pretty much any material that is not toxic, and like the energy efficiency of the buildings. That's what we give a lot of importance. And then it's pretty much this is something that the houses they are built by different people, different tests, different budgets. Some people build with $40-50 a square foot, and some people will build for $120-150 a square foot. So depending on the finishings, the materials, the quality. Some people, they keep their houses very open and they're like integrating nature inside the house. Some people, they want it more close with air conditioning or solar panels and so on. So there are all kinds of things and configurations. And the nice thing is you can come and visit and see La Ecovilla, and pretty much we will do a copy paste of 8 times around this property that is 15-20 times the size, like 12 times the size of La Ecovilla. What are the monthly fees? What are the costs to buy and build the house? Pretty much the monthly fees in Ecovilla, they run between $80 to $300 a month, depending on the size of the lot, and includes water. It includes food, a big basket of food every week, the maintenance of all the common areas and all the things that happen here. The cost to buy a lot runs between $50,000 to $450 as well, depending on the size, the location, the moment that you buy. And to build a house, you have to calculate somewhere between, I would say, $70 to $120 a square foot. So that's roughly what it cost. Did you say that you are able to hire local folks to do a lot of the farming and land work? Yeah, we have a lot of local folks that do that work. Pretty much nobody is forced to do anything in the community except paying their monthly fees. There are a lot of people that they want to have their gardens and their things like in their own land, and they're welcome to do as much work as they want. But in order to not create division and friction between neighbors, nobody is forced to do anything. Everything comes out of the heart. All the people that want to offer workshops, that want to do work in the community, in the gardens, harvesting, whatever they want to do, working in the committees, because all the communities run by different committees. We have the architecture, the administration, the construction, the community committee, permaculture, and food production. So all these committees are filled up by volunteer positions from the neighbor that wants to engage their community and enhance their community. So it's nobody, like, we pay with the monthly fees that we pay, we hire local people, and they are in charge of doing the work that is needed for the community to keep running and looking beautiful, and the trees and so on. Great.
Thank you for answering all of those questions. Yeah, and thank you everyone for asking them. And I see we have the website link in the chat, so go over and check it out and just like soak in this inspiration. I'm especially inspired by your Halloween celebration. Like no wrapped candy, walking around with a Tupperware to get these wonderful homemade treats from families. That's super cool. The Ecovillage way of doing Halloween.
Let me tell you one funny story. One time, because birthdays, we used to celebrate, we used to have piñatas for birthdays or something, and the only thing that they had inside the piñatas, they were like peanuts, or like dry fruits, things like that, all natural stuff, no wrap-up candies or anything. And there was a new family member, like a new family that just joined, and they wanted to celebrate the birthday, and they brought the piñatas with chocolates and candies and this and that. And the kids, they started like breaking it, and suddenly they break it and they see all those things, and they all freeze for a moment. They all like, they stood, and one of them started screaming, "They want to poison us, they want to poison us." And they all start screaming, "They want to poison us." And poor mother, like, she didn't know what to do. So it's you know, like before I used to live in a city, like with a lot of things, and the birthdays or anything, they were like a struggle. And we were the weird ones, that we wanted to give our kids a healthy nutrition and so on. So we were the weird ones. So it's like when you get your people, the community, and they are like these unspoken rules that how we want to raise and how we want to expose our kids to what. And in the afternoons, like no tablets outside the houses, and you see the kids running around and climbing trees and playing and screaming and going in their bicycles. Is very different than growing up with like buy, the consumption, the endless asking. So it's a
different culture. Yeah, incredible what you've created.
Thank you so much for having me here. And if you guys have any questions, you can write on Ecovilla website, and they will respond to you right away.
Great, beautiful. Thank you again, Marcelo. Amazing.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so traveling up from Costa Rica back to the US, we're going to head on over to Pennsylvania with the Poplar Place. Yes, we have Emily and Jackie with us. Go ahead and share. I'm excited to learn about your community.
Wonderful. Hello. Yes, we are the Poplar Place. Great. And we're going to pull up our presentation. Yeah.
And I think, wait, it doesn't seem like it's coming up as the share screen options anymore. So are we a co-host?
Yep, you should be. You may need to close out of your presentation if you had it open in presentation mode, and then click the share screen button.
Sorry, we don't have it open in presentation mode. Sorry, guys.
Oh,
there we go.
Well, we got it though.
Right there.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. You do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. We got it. We're getting it.
We're getting it.
We're getting it. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right, beautiful. Okay, so yes, we are the Poplar Place. And as it says, we are located in Lancaster City, Pennsylvania, which is a wonderfully bite-sized city of 60,000 people. And some other things that make this place particularly special is its long legacy of being a sanctuary city. So we live up on Cabbage Hill, which is why we've got our picture of a cabbage there. And we got our name because we originally were home for German immigrants who built and grew their own cabbages in their backyards. And so the name has stuck. But now we have a lot more diversity than just Germans and an Irish community. We are also one of the US's refugee capitals. So we have people from all over the world as refugees and immigrants here, which just makes a lot of what we're going to share about our community's values a very good fit, because hospitality and caregiving for all people is an important value of ours. So we love the place that we are. And my name is Jackie. As it says, I am one of the founding members. So I actually helped create the community. What I like to say is I honestly started it because as an experiment for myself, I was working in a ministry job for all of my career up until that point. And so a lot of my focus in my career was helping cultivate community for others, and really believing very deeply that we are meant to live our lives with more than just our immediate family, but that we are really supposed to be integrated with each other. And so I was a part of that and creating those spaces for my students, but for myself, I was always a little bit at a distance from it. And so there was a loss in that for me. And so I wanted to not only see those communities happening, but also receive the reciprocity from it. And so that's where the experiment of the Poplar Place began.
Yeah. And hi, I'm Emily. I'm the newest member of the Poplar Place. So there's 4 of us. So we're half of it. And I came about 2.5 months ago. I was in the previous year in a different intentional community, in a short-term, 1-year internship / community situation, also in Lancaster City. And that is a lot of how I got connected with the Poplar Place. And I was also drawn, like Jackie, to the idea of living with shared responsibility for each other, and with shared joy as well. I think I recently graduated college, and it just seemed like one of the things I wanted to avoid the most was just going from the beautiful community that is like a college campus, and then going to completely living alone and like all solitary. And yeah, so I've just been following that ever since, and Poplar has really fit with a lot of the ways that I wanted to live, and like a lot of the aspirational ways that I wanted to try to live. And yeah, so that's so I've been here for 2.5 months. She's been here for about 3.5 years, which is how long the Poplar Place has been around.
Yes, so in relation to our other presenters, we are a pretty young and budding community. So just like Emily said, we've been around for 3.5 years. But this is an example of some of the work that our community is doing. So as I mentioned, when we started, we were a group of 4 who knew that we wanted to share our faith life together, and then knew that we wanted to be involved with our neighbors. But those are pretty much the only presumptions we held in starting the community, and we really wanted the place that we committed to, which ended up being Lancaster City, and our direct neighbors to really influence how we support each other and how we live life together. And so this is a picture of us growing plants. But the picture on the left, the snowy picture, is what our garden looked like, or our backyard rather, when we first bought it. So it was just all grass. And 2 of our community members just got inspired to start their own garden. So if you can see in the back, there's a little birdhouse, or just like a metal pole, and that little area, the circle just around that, was our starter garden. And then once we got our fingers and hands dirty with that, we ended up getting pretty inspired by it. And so the picture to the right is what our garden looked like the next year. And then this is what our garden pretty much looks like right now. So what started off as just let's try something has now really grown into a central piece of who we are. We are a plant-based community, and have now helped our neighbors install over 30 gardens around the neighborhood, and are teaching people how to grow their own plants, how to compost. But I like to share that because we didn't initially know that that is a piece of us, or who we were going to become, but just because of who was living in the community in ways that they were inspired. And because there's more of us to do the work, we had the resources to try something, and now it's become a central part of us. The other piece I wanted to share about our history is that, so we've been around for 3.5 years, and a year ago, we unexpectedly got the opportunity to buy our house. And so we decided that the experiment was working, and that we really found this kind of communal living fulfilling. And our home was really affordable, which is something that's also been brought up a lot today. Is it's just really expensive to have a home, and but there's so much that comes from that stability. And so we went for it. And so we're no longer experimenting, but we want to be committed to this specific place for the long haul. And we made that decision not knowing actually if any of us, so I purchased the home, but we're not sure if we physically would be the ones to continue the community, but we wanted that neighborhood legacy to last. And so, yeah, we're very excited for what the future may hold for us. And this is just some pictures of inside our home, as Emily's going to share of what are some of our unique features. Hospitality is really important to us, and we have a really lovely setup in that we can host 30 people in our home very comfortably, which was something we did regularly pre-COVID.
Yeah. And so we wanted to share in terms of what makes our community unique. we think it's unique in part based on our 5 major themes that, as Jackie said, were developed over the past 3 years and now seem pretty solidified. And the first one is our shared Christian faith. This one, I think there was a bit of back and forth on whether to like decide that maybe some people in the house are Christian or if this was a Christian house specifically. And the decision was made to like claim the title as a Christian community, a lot because we recognize how much harm the church has done to multiple groups of people, and yeah, like throughout history and currently, like Jesus's name has been used to do a lot of unloving things, and we wanted to both be an image of something different than people might associate with American Christianity, and to publicly like use our platform to like apologize and on behalf of the church, and also just to like show how beautiful and loving like a relationships and a life built around Jesus could be. So yeah, so one of our housemates is really big into theology, and so he's kind of the leader with like stuff like universalism, which is the idea that eventually all people will go to heaven, and it's a little complicated, but that's been really inspiring to me in the past 2 months. I'm taking my time with it, but like really like finding how Jesus intersects with a lot of the ways we want to interact with the world, and it's a lot easier than I would expect sometimes. The second point is on liberation for all people, related to what we had said earlier about why we decided to name ourselves as Christian. We are like proud supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been happening for the past few years, most specifically in America, but I think it's gone more worldwide generally. We're supporters of the Free Palestine movement, and just generally of different, like, so the liberation is playing on like liberation theology, which is a South American theology movement, related to also like economic justice, and we're part of the expansion into justice for LGBTQ people. So we're a very open and affirming house. Me and one of our other housemates are LGBTQ, and we think that there's ample like backup that is completely compatible with our religious lifestyle as well. So all of that to say that like we've expanded liberation to be like very wide, like liberation for all people. Yes. Our third point is on hospitality, like Jackie was saying earlier. That is part of why Jackie specifically has made this house so beautiful. She has an eye for that, and I've just I hope to be a part of that soon as we like make the house even prettier. But I've gotten to enjoy that so far, and yeah, both of making our physical space a really welcoming and easy space for new people to be in, but also hosting dinners, maybe one-on-one with people that are interested. Like Jack was also saying, we used to have chili dinners weekly before the pandemic, and we also have, when we have an extra room, we take in people who need emergency housing, either for a weekend or a month. Usually those kind of connections come through, like who knows who and who needs help in the city and stuff like that, which has been really fulfilling. And yeah, so that's hospitality, making this a warm spot in the city. And also kind of related to that is us trying to be a focal point of like reaching out into the neighborhood for connection between us, specifically with our block, the 400 block of Poplar. Jackie knows everyone's name and I'm working on it. And we've done stuff like, well, we currently have a community table, which is mostly fresh produce. So this first picture is like an early version of that community table, which is just like a community pile, but now we do have a table. And we have a connection with a local farmer who brings in extra produce every week during the harvest season. And then it's also turned into a table where like people can just put clothes and extra non-perishable food out and our neighbors can take it, no questions asked. Just, yeah, like a point of remembering that, what am I trying to say? That it's like, it's nice to just not have a strong sense of ownership about things that don't really matter that much. Like we have enough food, and if we have something else to give, then it's worth it to give. And another thing connected, that second picture is about the community compost bin that we just started about 2 months ago. So it's about 2 blocks away from us. There's a big bin in the park that can hold up to 90 families compost. And so we are the compost captains for that, like our house. And so that picture was from the cleanup day where we cleaned up the site. And now I think we have like maybe a dozen or 2 dozen households in our little neighborhood involved in this composting thing. So, which has been really fun because we were composting ourselves, but now it's even better when it's a community focused thing. And then another thing, which we are continuing this weekend, is the Walk the Block potluck, which is a potluck between us and the entire 400 block of Poplar. It's a potluck where people make whatever food they want and then sit out on their porch with their food, and then people can walk, you know, up and down the street and hang out on the sidewalk while trying food from everybody else's house, which is really fun. So that happened in 2019, and we're starting it up again on Halloween afternoon. Not for a particular reason, but but yeah, just yeah. So I'm very excited to be a part of that. And then the last part is creation care, which is our plant-based diet, and which is, we cook exclusively vegan in the house, but we do accept vegetarian hospitality. And we will eat anything if it will be thrown away instead, which I really like as a mentality, you know, like, yeah, so vegan in the way that we don't give our money to things, but who lets food go to waste? Not me, you know? And then, yeah, so in the garden and the general, I think that's about it for creation care.
Yeah, and with that garden evolution, we've been trying to get closer and closer to permaculture, which is why you can see it's not, you know, necessarily the typical garden that we see in our American style of order and chemicals. And so, yeah, so we're really trying to do what we can in our city environment and in that heritage of gardeners who were first here to restore and do good things to the land.
Yeah. And then finally, a little bit about our membership process.
Yeah, so typically the process starts with an email. We have our contact information on the FIC page, or just through people, word of mouth around our community. And then it all begins, as most good things do, normally around a meal. if we're in proximity to each other, or a video call if not, and we really just start to get to know folks who might be interested in learning more about us. Those 5 core tenets that Emily went over, we have those written out in a document with more detail of what not only our values are, but how we have built practices and rhythms to live those out. So we send that to inquiring members so they can really get more in the weeds and practical with what does our daily life together look like. And then as we're mutually discerning, if it feels like a good fit, then we have folks live with us for a month rent free and really live out those values, and again, kind of see if it really does work for them and if it's a good rhythm. And then at the end of that month, we again discern together, do we want to do this for a bit of a longer term? And if at that point the answer is yes, then we ask folks to commit to a year at minimum. They're more than welcome to stay longer than that. And that's the other thing I wanted to say for our community is we recognize that one, this way of living, this closely together is not for everyone, and is not necessarily for a lifetime. It could just be for a season, and we really treasure that. And we really shape and meld our community to each person who joins us. And so there's a lot of investment, but there's also a lot of ownership and individuality. But we also have to tow that with some stability. And for those of us who are here longer, some sort of routine. So that's why we ask for that year as a starting point. But yeah, I think that's us in a short nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Jackie and Emily. That was a great presentation. And thank you also for the work that you're doing at Poplar Place. It's very inspiring. And I've loved how throughout this time of looking at these different models of community, they're all beautiful and they're all doing such important work. Another amazing Halloween tradition is born.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also how you're reaching out beyond just your community of, the core group of 4 people, but you have this house with 30 rooms. It's incredible. And you're doing this whole neighborhood thing with all the 400 people on the block. It's great to see community as, expanding out beyond the bounds of just the community itself. There is one question specifically for you all at Poplar Place. How is the living space arranged? Are there separate rooms or floors? Is a question.
Yeah, so it is a 4-bedroom home, but we kind of have a 5th area that can be utilized. Other than that, that 4th, 5th room is kind of a shared situation, but the others are all individualized. And then we have 2 bathrooms. So yeah.
It's like a townhouse, so
yeah,
like
row home.
a row home. That's it. So like it's a bit tall and thin and kind of connected to the other houses on the block. So it's 3 floors. Yeah. And a basement.
Oh, nice, wonderful. Good, and I put the link to the listing in the directory as well in the chat.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, so if there aren't any other questions for Poplar Place, I think we can begin to wrap up our time together. Hi, Alicia. Good that you're still here. I think Marcella had to head out, but we do have the website for La Ecovilla in the chat as well if you have more questions for Marcelo. And yeah, I want to appreciate you all for being here and making the time to share about your community. It's great to showcase the diversity of this movement and share about models that different communities are implementing. And I think you both, including Marcelo, have such interesting models for how you've created community. And I wonder if you could share really briefly, just like super brief each, a piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to create community themselves. Through your experiences of founding community, of living in community, what's just really short a piece of advice you would offer? And Alicia, maybe we'll go for you first.
I'm thinking this is advice that was passed down to me from another community that founded and then floundered, and they're still trying to kind of right themselves from this experience, where having a stated set of values and really making sure that the people that are coming into the community are clear about what you're about and what your focus is, and having that be written and solid in like the beginnings of your meetings, and how you set up policy, and how you work through everything. It helps with the, who are we, what are we doing here, the health of it. So having it written and having it spoken and having it shared is really important. The community that shared that with me had founders that came together, and then a lot of them weren't able to move in at the last minute, and so it was sort of new community members coming in and kind of ad hoc making up what they thought they needed as they went along. So there wasn't a cohesiveness. So I think sharing what you're about and being solid in that from the very founders all the way through generationally is a better recipe for success.
Great. Clarity on your values. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so I think two things came to mind. One is that the word, like the way you can get community is very versatile. So we shared about co-housing and doing community life in that way. But it doesn't, that's one really convenient way. And we went to that because you don't have to plan in some ways as much, that relational piece of community. But even if it's not in a co-housing atmosphere, I think just having more of a mindset of sharing daily life together and sharing rhythms is really important and really beautiful and rich. And you can do that even if you aren't living in the same vicinity as others, but to do things as a group and find people who have that overlap with you. And like our first presenter was just saying, being specific about what those shared values and how you want to live them out together and do that concretely, I think is a first step to building community.
Okay, great. And Emily, what's your short piece of advice?
Oh man, I didn't plan any. I mean, definitely what they've taught, sorry, I'm playing with a pen. What they've taught me the most is that just direct communication is very important. Like it was like almost so direct for me, because I'm a very like kind of communicator, but really like things are much more efficient when you say exactly how you're feeling and exactly what you need from a situation or what you can handle. And it feels in a way like it's rather freeing to just like know exactly what's going on with another person. Related to that, every 2 weeks we have like emotion check-ins, like we just talk for 20 minutes each about how we're doing, and it really keeps us on track with each other. So just instead of letting things boil over, which it could very well do with like people living in a close space all together, communication for sure.
Great. Awesome. I love it. So we got clarity on our values, sharing more, communicate with each other directly and clearly. Awesome. Well, thank you all again for being here, for taking the time. Thank you everyone who's been listening in. I put the link to our evaluation form. And next month, November, we're going to do this event 1 week earlier. So it's usually on the 4th Thursday. This month, it's going to be on the 3rd Thursday due to Thanksgiving. So there you have it. I hope to see you back again another month. And thank you again, presenters. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.